What if North Korea's latest missile test wasn't just another show of force, but a message to South Korea? A warning shot, aimed at a country that may soon be allowed to touch something far more powerful than missiles: nuclear fuel. On October 24, 2025, South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun announced that the United States had agreed to begin talks on revising the decades-old nuclear energy pact between the two allies. The key phrase from the report in the Hankyoreh reads, "The U.S. has accepted Korea's request to ease restrictions on uranium enrichment and spent fuel reprocessing." Negotiations will begin soon. Sounds technical, right? But in plain English, this means South Korea might be one step closer to controlling its own nuclear fuel cycle, something only a handful of countries can do. Right now, under the existing agreement, South Korea isn't allowed to enrich uranium or reprocess spent fuel without explicit U.S. approval. That's basically Washington's way of saying, "We trust you, but not that much." The new push from South Korea, however, changes everything. South Korea operates 26 nuclear reactors, and officials argue that no other advanced nuclear nation imports 100% of its fuel. That's from the same Hankyoreh article published on October 24, 2025. And it's true, South Korea's nuclear industry is massive, yet completely dependent on foreign uranium. Now here's where it gets interesting. Just 2 days before that announcement, October 22, 2025, North Korea launched a new round of ballistic missiles, including what it claimed was a hypersonic weapon. According to Reuters and the Associated Press, KCNA, North Korea's state news agency, proudly declared that the test was designed to strengthen its nuclear war deterrent. So let's connect the dots. On one side, South Korea moves to gain more control over nuclear technology. On the other, North Korea fires missiles and brags about its nuclear power, and all within the same week. Coincidence, maybe, but the timing is almost too perfect to ignore. Some experts say this is Pyongyang's way of sending a message and a warning that if South Korea edges even slightly toward nuclear independence, the North will answer with strength. Politico wrote on October 21, 2025, that these tests could be part of a calculated response to rising U.S.-South Korean cooperation. In other words, every time South Korea and the U.S. talk about nuclear issues, the North answers with missiles. Think about it. For decades, North Korea's biggest strategic card has been that it's the only Korea with nuclear weapons. If South Korea suddenly gains the ability to produce or reprocess its own nuclear fuel, even for peaceful energy, that psychological advantage starts to fade. From Pyongyang's perspective, that's terrifying. Their entire national narrative depends on being the nuclear state surrounded by enemies. If South Korea begins to look capable of developing its own deterrent, whether or not it actually builds a bomb, North Korea loses its leverage. And the world is watching. The Council on Foreign Relations recently noted that a new U.S.-Korea deal could redefine deterrence on the Korean peninsula. If South Korea crosses the threshold into nuclear-capable status, it would reshape not just the balance with the North, but also with Japan, China, and even the United States itself. That's why this moment feels so critical. Because both Koreas, North and South, are now standing at a kind of nuclear crossroads. One already has weapons. The other may soon have the capability to make them if it ever chooses to. So maybe this isn't just about another missile flying into the East Sea. Maybe it's about fear. Fear that the balance of power is starting to shift. Remember, October 22, 2025, North Korea fires hypersonic missiles. October 24th, South Korea announces new nuclear pact negotiations with Washington. The cause and effect isn't proven, but the sequence is undeniable. So here's the question that lingers. Was North Korea's missile launch a warning, not to the United States, but to South Korea itself? A signal saying, don't even think about becoming what we already are. And if South Korea does one day become a nuclear-capable state, what happens next? Will it push Pyongyang to negotiate? Or provoke it into something far more dangerous? Because on the Korean peninsula, every new piece of technology, every missile test, every treaty revision isn't just a policy move. It's a statement, and in this case, the message might be louder than ever. What do you think? Is South Korea's nuclear ambition the real reason behind North Korea's latest provocation, or just another coincidence in a decades-long standoff? Either way, one thing is clear. The next move could change the balance of power, permanently,